In this episode, we will explore the wonderful wetlands of Alberta and some of the amazing critters that use them. Wetlands are essential ecosystems for various birds, bugs, flora, and fauna. Approximately 1/5 of Alberta's land base is covered in wetlands. Here in Alberta, wetlands can be divided into two main broad categories: peatlands and non-peatlands. Peatlands include bogs and fens, and they can be known for their peat-based soils that are found mostly in the northern part of the province. Bogs are poorly drained and filled with peat moss. They are acidic and surrounded by boreal forest, including black spruce trees and tamarack trees. Fens are a type of peatland that have a little bit of water flow. They are less acidic than bogs, and sometimes they can support other types of plants. Sedges, grasses, shrubs, and tamarack trees also generally surround fens. Peatlands are being recognized as unique ecosystems that provide habitat for hundreds of threatened and endangered species. For example, the endangered woodland caribou have been associated with these areas. The second main type of wetland include non-peatlands. Non-peatlands include marshes, ponds, swamps, and shallow open water, and they are found mostly in the parkland and prairie regions in the southern half of the province. Marshes include open, slow-moving water, and they usually include plants like reeds, cattails, and grasses. Swamps are forested ponds with no obvious flow fed by spring floods. Plants that surround swamps include shrubs and trees like black spruce, willow, and tamarack trees. Wetlands are essentially nature's kidneys. They help to filter and clean out water and recharge water supplies. Wetlands help detoxify pollutants. They help with sewage breakdown, with the removal of fertilizers. They help purify the water, and they provide as a buffer against floods and droughts. They also store atmospheric carbon. Wetlands are remarkable for the biodiversity they include. Waterfowl are among the first family of waterbirds we'll be discussing. Alberta is known as the duck factory of North America. That is because it is part of the prairie pothole region. The prairie pothole region includes a vast network of pothole wetlands, which provide ideal conditions for waterfowl to nest, feed, and raise their young, leading to high numbers of waterfowl being in these areas. Some of the common species of waterfowl you'll start to notice are Canada geese, buffleheads, canvasback, gadwalls, green and blue-winged teals, mallards, ruddy ducks with their blue bill, and many other beautiful ducks and other waterfowl. I think that waterfowl are a great species to learn about since they are so easily seen and accessible in our city wetlands and parks. Mallards are one of the most abundant and common ducks in North America. They are dabbling ducks, meaning they'll dip their head in the water to find food, but they will not dive like some other waterfowl. This female mallard will build her own nest But she won't bring materials to the nest. Rather, she'll find a comfortable spot and she'll pull up grass and vegetation and line it around her from where she's sitting, and this will form her nest. Mallard moms are covered in beautiful brown spots that help disguise them in the grass and on the ground while she's incubating her eggs. They've also been known to take tall grass and pull it over top of them to further conceal them. Mallard eggs are a creamy gray or greenish color. And once the babies are hatched, they are covered in downy feathers, and they'll leave the nest within 13 to 16 hours. Another common waterfowl are Canada geese. Their arrival marks the beginning of spring as they fill the skies with their honking in V formations. This V formation takes a balanced team approach where when one goose gets tired, they'll fall back and another takes the lead. Canada geese have always been a fond sign of spring, and I have always loved them, but as their presence becomes more common in urban areas, people are regarding them as pests. Despite some of their controversy, Canada geese are not violent and they are loyal parents, so they will only defend their nests if they feel that their babies are threatened. If we give Canada geese space and habitat, they will thrive, and so will we. Despite being a common and abundant species today, Canada geese did not always have it easy. Jeff joins us again as he shares a bit about Canada geese and their conservation story.
A lot of people don't realize that Canada geese used to be an endangered species. And I first became aware of that, not because I didn't see them, because I didn't know I should expect to see them. But when I was a teenager, some of the friends from the Long Point Bird Observatory phoned me up and asked me if I'd come to the Toronto Island school and help them for the weekend, because crates of Canada geese were arriving and they were reintroducing them into southern Ontario. So there's a breeding facility in Guelph and there's another one in Regina. I don't know where the geese that we got came from, but I spent the weekend hauling these crates off a ferry, off a truck, and down to the water's edge and opening the gates and letting the geese out and introducing them. And so now here we are 50 or more years, 60 years later, and they're everywhere. So obviously other people were using them elsewhere. I wasn't involved in captive breeding them, so I can't take full credit, but I did play that one tiny part in helping to release them to the water's edge. And now, of course, they're everywhere.
I'm so grateful that Canada geese are a conservation success. They are one of those heartwarming and endearing signs of spring. And who doesn't love seeing their beautiful babies? It breaks my heart to see wetlands that were once habitats that they would thrive in, drained and turned into parking lots or strip malls. Protecting lands that birds use for habitats is so important, and that is why I am so fond of the work that the Edmonton Area Land Trust organization does. I'm so grateful to be joined by Meghan, who shares a bit more about her experience with bird conservation and what the Edmonton Area Land Trust does to help protect habitats that our wildlife rely on.
My name is Meghan Jacqueline, and I am a conservation team lead at the Edmonton Area Land Trust. My background is in conservation biology, and I took a degree in conservation biology from the U of A several years ago. And I was inspired to get into this field of work by all the nature time I spent outside in nature as a child, canoeing and camping, and it really connected me with our natural spaces, and I have been passionate about protecting those spaces after all the experiences I've had throughout my life. So as I was going through school, I got experience in a lot of different areas of research. I had a chance to work with a lot of birds. I've done point counts for songbirds and moved into doing some bird banding as I finished schooling as well. I've also had a chance to have experience with working with mountain pine beetle, working with tree reclamation, and really getting to learn a lot more about different aspects of conservation. As the conservation team lead at the Edmonton Area Land Trust means that I take on a lot of the organization of our fieldwork that we're getting done at the organization. I go out and do a lot of that fieldwork. I will lead volunteers out and about on the lands. And then my special project is leading Edmonton Area Land Trust Citizen Science Program. The Edmonton Area Land Trust is a conservation charity, and we are focused on protecting land for wildlife and for people in perpetuity in the Edmonton region. The Edmonton Area Land Trust, we either protect land through lands that are donated to us by people who are interested in seeing those lands conserved into the future, and we also can do it through the donation of conservation easements, where the land is protected, but the landowner continues to own that land. And then recently, EALT has been extremely lucky to have the opportunity to purchase some properties as well. So EALT has a number of lands all within 150 kilometer radius of Edmonton. Some of these lands include Larch Sanctuary, which is one of our conservation easements, one of our only lands within the city of Edmonton. Because this is a conservation easement, it is still owned by the city of Edmonton, but EALT partners with the city to make sure that land is taken care of. We have a number of other lands that are very popular and are very wonderful places to visit. We work with the Nature Conservancy of Canada to protect Bunchberry Meadows, as well as Higgs Conservation Land. So those are wonderful places to go and visit. Other ones that are very popular include Glory Hills, as well as Pipestone Creek. And even Waterbears Greenwoods up to the north is very popular among the local people there as well. So my favorite conservation area of EALT's is Pipestone Creek, and it's my favorite because of the large network of trails that are present on the land, and the fact that the whole land really borders the edge of Pipestone Creek itself. Has beautiful views, and we've had a lot of luck with some really lovely wildlife sightings at this place. So that area is my favorite. Absolutely. So Edmonton Area Land Trust, you can find quite a few different wildlife species at our lands. It's very common for there to be moose, for there to be deer, coyotes, fox, and at some of our more remote lands, we also see bears and cougars, although you're very unlikely to actually see one in person. And then a wide variety of bird species are also present, everything from swans, ducks, geese, to many different types of songbirds as well. So the Edmonton Area Land Trust has been running our citizen science program since 2021, so about 4 years now, going into our 5th year. So these programs have made a big difference for EALT because we're able to find out what's happening with these different groups of species on our lands. With such a small staff team at EALT, there's only so much that our staff are able to go out and do. And so we can rely on the help of our wonderful volunteers who don't even really need a background in conservation in many cases, and they can still come out, they can help us with these surveys, and then we'll know what's happening on our lands. So as of this point, it can vary year by year which programs we might have running at our lands, but we've had everything from amphibian monitoring, bat box monitoring, bird and loon surveys, butterfly surveys, and field ornithology as part of our citizen science program. So there's quite a few different options for people can go out and do. And these all contribute to us understanding what's happening on our lands. And every program that we run through the citizen science program, we make sure that that data also is passed on to larger organizations so it can be used by researchers doing work as well. So we know that that data is making a meaningful impact. My favorite of all the citizen science activities is the field ornithology. That does include some bird banding, which has a special place in my heart. But then my second favorite would have to be the bat box monitoring, as we are currently facing white-nosed fungus entering the province, and so it is a concern, a big concern for our bats. And by monitoring the bat boxes, we also are able to see what's happening with those populations and see where we might need additional help for those species. So if anyone is interested in getting started with citizen science, For one thing, we certainly welcome those people to come and join us at EALT. We love to have people of all sorts of different experience levels, and through the different activities we have running with Edmonton Area Land Trust Citizen Science Program, it's fairly early for us to see trends in what is happening with the species that we're observing. The greatest changes that I've noticed are with some of our bat boxes, where thus far it's actually been a relatively positive change. We are concerned about the impact of white-nosed fungus that is making its way into Alberta now. However, thus far we've been very lucky to mostly see the growth of of bat colonies within our bat boxes on EALT lands. So that has been the easiest impact to simply observe anecdotally. And then otherwise, the program has been running for only about 4 years, and so we're still at the point of only really seeing year-by-year changes in species or populations, and not necessarily large-scale trends. But that is something that we will be able to see over time with this program. So in addition to our citizen science program, we also have the conservation land stewards program. So these stewards have a little bit of a different focus from the citizen science. Our citizen science volunteers are really focused on collecting data and allowing us to monitor what's happening on the landscape. Our conservation land stewards, their focus is to go out and make changes to the landscape. And so if we've identified that we have invasive weed species that are having an impact in a certain area, we would ask those conservation land stewards to go out and pull those weeds, or let us know if those weeds are such a large spread across the landscape that maybe we need a different control. We need to come mow it, we need to come weed whack it, and hand pulling is not an option. So these species have no natural predators or competitors, and they will over time simply outcompete all the native plants and end up producing a monoculture of those weed species. And so sometimes when we take on a new land that we're trying to protect, we will see this on the landscape, that there might be, say, a sea of Canada thistle or creeping thistle, and we don't see any native species in that patch where it's just thistle. And so the reason that we're trying to control these species is so that there's space for a diversity of native plant species to be there. And the more diversity of plant species are there, the more diversity of insects, the more diversity of wildlife, and a healthier ecosystem can survive there. My favorite species range from the very identifiable Canadian swallowtail to smaller species like the white admiral or the silvery blue butterfly.
Another butterfly similar to the silvery blue that Meghan mentioned is the spring azure, or northern azure. These little blue butterflies are the first blue butterflies of spring. The caterpillars of these species feed on flowers, flower buds, and many different shrubs. Dogwood and cherry are their common host plants, but other species are also used. Gossamer wing butterflies have a fascinating mutual relationship with ants. Many of these butterflies secrete a sweet substance that attracts ants to them. These ants then provide protection from predators in return. Meghan shares why she feels drawn to work in conservation.
So I'm very much inspired to work in conservation and help to further that goal because of my background with canoeing and camping as a child, and how I got a chance to spend time in nature. I got to see the beautiful environments that we have right in this area, and really appreciate that. And so that has kind of carried through my life and inspired me as I go through my life. And I really wish that everyone would have that experience, because I think that it makes a big difference getting to be truly immersed in nature and see even what we have right here around Edmonton, because that's what I think sometimes is missing, is that you might hear about the Amazon rainforest and all the species that are there, all the incredible diversity that we see. And that's absolutely true. But what people sometimes don't think about is the diversity that we have right here in our own backyard as well. So I wish that people would get the chance to go out, try camping, try some light recreation in nature and really get to learn what we have right here in our backyards, because that is also very important and a very wonderful thing to be involved in.
I am so grateful for Meghan for sharing with us and for the Edmonton and Area Land Trust for all the work that they do to conserve lands near us. Please consider checking out their organization and doing whatever you can to support them. Next, we'll be discussing another type of waterfowl that marks the sign of spring. Longer days signal the beginning of spring migration for many birds. When birds migrate to their breeding grounds, they cross over traditional areas annually. Alberta is uniquely located on 3 main pathways for bird migration called flyways: the Pacific, Central, and Eastern flyways. These flyways partly converge over central Alberta. An astounding number of snow geese also migrate through this area in the spring. They specifically pass through Beaver Hill Lake, which is an important staging area for snow geese, where they stock up on nutrients and pack up on fat to prepare them for the rest of their final weeks of their transcontinental journey to the Arctic, where they breed. Snow geese usually arrive around Tofield at the end of April and reach their breeding grounds by June. The Snow Goose Festival was created to celebrate the annual and spectacular arrival of snow geese to the surrounding areas. As a child, I attended the Snow Goose Festival, and I remember the excitement of loading up onto the tour buses as they took people out to view the snow geese. As an adult, I also attended the Snow Goose Festival for my love of birds, and the year after, I worked at the observatory as well. Willow and I have volunteered together with the Citizen Science Projects with the Edmonton and Area Land Trust, and I am super grateful to hear about their experience of the snow geese as well. Willow recently graduated from the University of Alberta with their undergraduate degree in biology and earth sciences.
Seeing the snow geese for the first time, it's incredible how many there are. And you hear it's like a massive migration, but then you see like the farmers' fields, they're like white. Or you drive by and maybe you stop and like the sky is birds. It's something so incredible that I feel very, very, very lucky to have been able to see. And I think a lot of people feel that way, my grandparents used to go every year to the snow goose route, because a lot of species come from sort of the southern United States, Central America, even South America, up through North America, and we're just right in the way. They can't go by without coming through here. And I think that's very, very fortunate as they go up to, either they stop here or they go up into further northern systems. I think we're pretty lucky to be right in their path, and we have lots of like we're just above like the prairie pothole region, and we have really good a good forest network, I think, to facilitate like movement of these creatures. To volunteer at the Snow Goose Festival and lead a bus tour, and then this year I was also able to volunteer and work at the show for the Snow Goose Festival. I think events like that really get the community involved in nature are super, super important, because they make something that maybe seems a bit like inaccessible or like a little bit hard to act, inaccessible. They make it very, very accessible to people, and maybe someone wouldn't know to go where to go for the snow geese, but then the buses take them there, and then they can see this amazing spectacle, this huge migration. And I think it is so amazing that people get so excited about things, and they may not have known that it existed before they came out. And I remember when I was little going to banding events at the Beaver Hill Bird Observatory, and I remember having the birds in my hands that they'd be released, and it does lock in these memories for you that you'll always look fondly on. And I think it's really important, if people have such an amazing experience, such as the Snow Goose Festival or other community nature interactions, it will sort of cement or foster a love, or at least an appreciation or an acknowledgement of the natural world.
I completely agree that education is central to conservation. The ability to have people connect with nature is one of those first steps to help them learn why it's important to protect it. Super grateful for Meghan and Willow for sharing these points with us. And next we'll be turning our focus to some other water birds that live in wetlands. Grebes are another type of water bird that live in Alberta wetlands. Grebes have fun courtship displays, calls that sound like cackles, and are known to carry their babies on their backs. In Alberta, we have a variety of grebe species, including the pied-billed grebe, eared grebe, horned grebe, and western grebe. In Edmonton, a grebe you can see is the redneck grebe. Many redneck grebes nest at Beaumaris Lake Park in Edmonton. Redneck grebes feed mostly on fish and crustaceans and some insects. They hunt visually in relatively clear water from the top of the water to the bottom, if they can reach it. Sometimes, like loons, they submerge their heads partially in the water while floating, scanning for prey, which they then capture by diving and rapidly grabbing it in their bills. Migration, redneck grebes form monogamous pairs. Most of these pairs will arrive at breeding lakes already mated, and they will continue their ritualized displays. These displays are called ceremonies. These ceremonies are performed to maintain the pair's bond with each other. Similar to other grebes, each ceremony involves a series of postures and movements that are done in a specific sequence. These are called the discovery ceremony, weed ceremony, and greeting ceremony. Both males and females play an important role in building the nest, incubating the eggs, and raising the chicks. For many birds where males and females look similar, parents will often both play a role in raising the chicks. Grebes' nests are made of a bulky pile of aquatic plants that are anchored to emergent plants or piled directly on the lake bottom and built up from there. Grebes will have 1 to 9 light blue eggs, and once the eggs hatch, the chicks are immediately active and they'll climb up onto their parents' back, where they spend most of their time until they are 10 to 17 days old. Another type of water bird you can look for in Alberta includes shorebirds. As the name suggests, you'll have to visit the shores of lakes, ponds, and rivers. The best place for shorebirds often includes shallow lakes and sloughs, particularly where dropping water levels have left a muddy lake at the bottom. Alberta is home to numerous shorebirds. A few different groups of shorebirds include plovers, sandpipers, stilts, and avocets. This beautiful large shorebird is an American avocet. Avocets are found in wetlands, including shallow, fresh, and saltwater wetlands and ponds. American avocets place their nests directly on the ground without the benefit of shrubs to provide them shade. To keep the eggs from overheating during incubation, they dip their belly feathers into the water. American avocet chicks leave the nest within 24 hours, and day-old avocets can walk, swim, and dive to escape predators. The next shorebird we'll highlight are Wilson's phalaropes. Wilson's phalaropes will spin round in the water to create whirlpools that stir up invertebrates. These will fuel their migration. Females are rich and peachy and gray, and they are much more colorful than males. Wilson's phalaropes almost always lay exactly 4 eggs. Unlike most other birds with phalaropes, the female does not play a predominant role in caring for the young. Instead, the females desert the males once they've laid their eggs, and the male will raise the young by himself. Meanwhile, female phalaropes will look for other males to mate with. This is reflected in the female having brighter colors than the male. Shorebirds are facing drastic declines. This is in part due to climate change and loss of habitats along their migration routes. Agriculture as well reduces the habitats that are available for these birds. Plovers, godwits, dowitchers, and yellowlegs are among some of the shorebirds that are especially impacted. It's really important for many of our shorebirds that they have spaces to stop along their migration routes and also to breed. Next, Alana shares with us an elusive bird that is very important to marshes.
My favorite bird is the Sora rail. They are a small species of bird. They're about, a little bigger than a robin, I would say. And they are found all around Alberta wetland. And the reason I like them is because they're actually one of our more common waterbirds, but you don't see them very often. They're pretty elusive, and so you would hear them far before you would see them. I've seen a few here and there, but they're not like a common one that you would come across unless you really knew what you were looking for and actually listening for. So their call is just the cutest thing, and that's one of the reasons they're my favorite. So you'll often hear them during their purr-wee, that kind of sound, but then they also have a really adorable, like, thrilling laugh, and it sounds like they're laughing. They're so sweet, and you find them all around wetlands, and it's likely, if you've been out and about on a nature walk or around a lake or pond, you've probably heard them and likely not seen them. So they're cute little plump chicken-like creatures. They're kind of brown and gray mottled body, pear-shaped, and then they have a bright yellow beak. They're my favorite. I think they're my favorite because you could see them and you could hear them, but only if you knew what you were looking for. So they're an underappreciated little guy.
Ducks Unlimited got its start in 1937 during the Dust Bowl, when North America's drought-plagued waterfowl populations reached an all-time low. A group of determined sportsmen joined together to form the organization that is known as Ducks Unlimited today. Ducks Unlimited is now the world's largest and most effective private waterfowl and wetland conservation organization. It works with partnerships including private individuals, landowners, agencies, scientific communities, and other entities to help conserve wetlands. Young shares with us how the Ducks Unlimited wetlands near where they grew up even helped inspire and shape that love for nature early on.
I think I've always been really interested in nature since I was a kid. I got to go through all my different, I used to draw so much as a kid, and my parents kept all of them. And it was really funny looking back and seeing how much I drew things like birds. I made a nature map of Alberta, the parklands are here and the prairies are here. I think it's just always been within my life. And I really like going to the Ducks Unlimited wetland near the town I grew up in. And I wrote a letter to them talking about seeing the red-winged blackbird. And I called him a fine feathered fellow. So I just love them so much. And then I even went to school for my first degree was in geology. So very much just always interested in the natural world, specifically Alberta. And then I think as I was healing from burnout recovery with work, I just really got into birds again as an adult. And I just brought up a lot of happy emotions and memories of things I've always liked, that have always been there, but I just wasn't paying as much attention to.
Male red-winged blackbirds fiercely defend their territories during the breeding season. Their iconic cry is used in territory defense as well as flashing their bright red wing. On the other hand, female red-winged blackbirds are speckled in brown, staying lower in the vegetation, looking for food and weaving together their incredible nests. Next, Young shares how they've been involved with bird conservation and how birding is a form of self-care for them.
I think the ways that I've been involved, largely come down to it just kind of seeps into all areas of my life because I love birds so much. So even in just the different workplaces that I go to where I'm interacting with people a lot, always somehow I bring the birds into it. I think seeing that passion just kind of normalizes it too, just to be like, hey, maybe this is something you haven't thought about before. So when I was working for a nonprofit, I was also helping out some of our partners with summer programming for youth, specifically little kids. I think it was like grades 4 to 6. And so every day they have to have different activities, different art activities. And so for a few days, I brought some bird information, some bird knowledge, and then painting some decorative birdhouses. But it was definitely really cool to be able to teach all the youth about the different birds that exist, as well as just things they could notice while seasons change. Like we have, we're very lucky to be in the central flyway, so we get to see so many amazing birds during the spring and the fall. So just things they could notice with that as well. And amazing winter birds, our friends that stay here over the winter. And it's really cool just to see the kids that just have a passion for that. And even if they don't, they just have a little bit more knowledge about the birds that they see maybe day to day. I also run mental health workshops about workplace burnout, so I can really speak to that on an experiential level and not just an academic level. But I also always bring up birds, especially when we talk about how to do actual self-care. So we go with people through what does self-care really mean, and how it's not just something that we want, it's a need, it's how we take care of ourselves. And so for our workshops, we break it into 6 categories or dimensions of self-care. So things like physical, practical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And the last one is social. And so I talk about how a really good tip for self-care, because we all have not a lot of time in our busy lives, is to do something that fills multiple categories at once. And so I always give the example of birding, which I think fills every category except practical. And I kind of share how for me birding is spiritual because it connects me to a larger sense of the world beyond human beings. It helps me feel more connected to nature and the rhythms of the world. Emotional and social because it gives me quiet time to myself while also connecting with very different people. Mental in that, I'm exercising my brain to figure out what bird I just saw and to be able to identify birds in different ways. It's a good challenge that I think is that kind of healthy stress in our lives. And then we also have physical. So I'm out moving in nature, smelling, the dead leaves, and it just makes me feel so much better and more whole as a person. And so when I, prioritize birding as self-care, I'm hitting all those different dimensions. So, it doesn't have to feel like, the point of self-care is not that it feels like a chore. It's kind of natural rhythms that we have in our own lives that help us feel fully human.
I loved Young's description of the 6 domains of self-care and how birding can really fall into so many of those categories. I think a huge part of our wetlands and natural landscapes are that they are so beautiful and people feel good spending time in them, which is a huge part of why we should be working to protect them. Not only do wetlands provide those various ecosystems we talked about at the beginning of the episode, but they also benefit our own health and well-being by spending time in them. Wetlands provide habitats for various insects, birds, muskrats, beavers, and frogs, and even turtles in southern Alberta. Despite the essential habitats and benefits of wetlands that we discussed today, we lose 80 acres of wetlands daily. It is more important than ever that we all work together to conserve and restore wetlands in Alberta, Canada, and around North America. We can all play a part by helping to protect wetlands by supporting organizations that we discussed today, volunteering with citizen science efforts to monitor populations, and to help advocate for the importance of wetlands. If you hear that a local wetland is being threatened, you can take action by writing to local political leaders near you to voice why you feel wetlands are important. In this episode, we discuss the incredible critters that rely on wetlands. I hope that you learned something new about Alberta's wetlands and some of the creatures that use them. Thank you for your time today.